Hey, welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse. And tonight we have two special guests and Todd Evans, who is always a special guest. We have from the Squalls, Bob Hay, and mastering engineer Jason NeSmith. And tonight we're going to talk about the new old Squalls live album. And just learned today that there's a reissue campaign underway. And we're going to talk about that too. So stay tuned. Hey, welcome to Grant's Rock Warehouse, and I want to welcome Bob Hay and Jason NeSmith tonight, and of course, Todd Evans. So tonight, we're going to talk about the new Squalls album. It's kind of a new album, live from the 40 Watt on Strolling Bones Records. In fact, there's a whole reissue campaign that I learned about for the Squalls. In fact, it seems to be a lot going on in the Squalls camp. And we've got Bob here from the Squalls, who's going to talk about that, and Jason NeSmith, who has done the mastering on the new live album. We always like to have Jason here. It's always fun. So anyway, so the new live record came out, what month are we in? October? Came out in August, which was a re-release of the same record that came out in 2017, right?
Right.
Okay. So same track listing, but this time, what was different about it this time, and why did we reissue it, and what prompted that?
Well, Pylon has their project called Box.
It's right here.
Okay, yeah. And Vanessa was going over to New West Records office a lot to go through all their memorabilia and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she suggested that I give a copy of it to George Fontaine Sr. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then next time I saw him, he said he really likes the record. And he was planning on setting up like his own label that was a subsidiary of New West. And he said, I'd like to call it Strolling Bones Records. And I said, sure, you can call it Strolling Bones Records. Because that's one of the songs on there. And so a little bit, maybe a year later, Jefferson Holt contacted us and said he wanted to put out reissues of our recorded works. And so Vanessa called George Fontaine and told him that, and George Fontaine said that he'd like to put out the live record. And then Jefferson said, well, that's fine. Propeller Sound Recordings will put out the reissues of the albums that we did in our EP.
Oh yeah, that's going to be out, what, November 18th, I think? Yeah.
Looks like this. It looks a little different from this because it's got more color. When we put this out ourselves, we just had a 2-color print job done back in the 80s. And the live one you've already seen, so yeah.
But I must say, I've been listening to this all week. And
cool.
The more you listen to it, the more it takes a hold of you. And I listened to a podcast that you were recently on, Only Three Lads.
Right.
And you mentioned on that podcast that this was recorded on cassette.
Yes, it was. And it was.
Holy crap, I would never know.
It was digitized from the cassettes by Jason.
Yeah,
that was like the first step.
Yeah, and that's why we have Jason here. How in the what are you, like a wizard? Because for anybody, this
sounds like $1 million.
It sounds like $1 million. And Todd and I were talking about this before we went on, that I couldn't tell. I thought it was just like off of reel to reel or something.
You were trying to figure out, is that too early for DAT? I think it's too early for DAT.
Probably.
It's funny you should use the word wizard, because the reason they sound good is because the man who is doing sound for all those Squalls shows was a guy named T. Patton Biddle, who also goes by the Wiz. So I can't have anybody call me a whiz or a wizard without paying a royalty to him. He was the one who was simultaneously making the room sound great and making all of these board recordings that were good enough for release. All we had to do was go back and get the original cassettes, retransfer them with everything aligned correctly, and a little bit of tweaking in the mastering stage, and that's what it is. It's pretty simple.
And the cassettes were there any issues with dropouts, or they just sitting around and they basically great?
Well, what's funny is like cassettes don't have the same issues most of the time that the larger formats do, because they use different formulas that did not have that sticky shed syndrome that's messing up all of the master tapes from the 70s and 80s. So these were in great shape. I doubt they've been played very much, especially since Bob had used them a few years ago to do the CD version. So they weren't exposed to any rough handling. Some of them were really good tapes. There was one that there was, I don't know what kind of metal it was, but it was a heavy metal cassette.
Those TDKs, probably.
Not a heavy metal cassette like Anthrax, but
the
shell
was
made of metal.
The shell was made of metal.
Yeah. Those high-end TDKs, or maybe the Sonys. I can't remember.
Not metal like Type 4, but an actual metal tape. It was really cool. So he didn't spare much expense in making these board recordings, and it's a good thing.
Yeah, because they sound wonderful. So I highly recommend picking this up. Just be blown away by it. But that's incredible. But the thing that I've noticed about this whole thing, it just seems, well, not only does the mastering sound good, but the tapes sound great, but these recordings sound just as fresh today as if they were recorded yesterday. And we're talking about, cassette recordings from the 80s. Other than the mastering, were there any other challenges in getting this ready for release, or was it pretty straightforward?
It was pretty straightforward. Strolling Bones Records, their marketing manager is named Lee Rixey, and she oversaw the whole thing. And of course, that's New West too. So they've been doing that a long time. So everything was pretty smooth. They have their way of doing things, and it works out good.
Okay, I was just going to say that that part of it is that the performances are so good. It doesn't sound like it sounds like what was on the tape is what you got, and the performances are just fantastic. And I thought that it was that the Live at the 40 Watt album was going to be good, and then when I heard it, it was better than I thought it was going to be. And the more time I spend with it, the better it gets. So it's just an excellent snapshot of time.
Squall sounded like a very well rehearsed machine on these tapes.
And I was in school back then, and I've seen him a bunch of times, and I knew that going in, but I was still surprised at how good it was.
But I was going to say about that whole live feel, it's almost hypnotic when I listen to it. Just the guitar and bass interplay, the band's really tight. And, if you just close your eyes, you think you're right there at the show. So I want to give you guys props, and it's a wonderful release. But we've also got you said on the 18th, I think, is the EP's coming out on CD as a reissue, right? With bonus tracks?
Right. It's supposed to come out on the 4th, actually, and the release party is scheduled later, which is probably a good thing because it might not get done by the 4th.
Jason, did you have any part in that?
I did. They
of course he did.
They roped me back in. I wasn't trying to get out, but if I had, they would have roped me back in anyway. Bob showed up with Bob and Vanessa showed up with a big box of audio archives, and they said there's the EP, there's the couple of full lengths in there, and some tapes we don't even know what's on it. So get to
Have at it.
digitizing. Yeah, and yeah, and I did, and I it's a mixture of sources from it, but they all sounded good and they all cleaned up real nice. I'm super happy with how those turned out. And what's interesting about these two different projects, the album reissues and the live album, is that while there is some material in common, and it's all very good to great, the live CD has so many tracks that were never recorded in the studio that are the equal of the studio albums. They just had so much material, and it's great that it's going to be. I mean, I think there's still some stuff that's on those live tapes that isn't going to be on the album releases, to my knowledge, yet. But they just had so many songs. They had so much material.
Well, and it sounds like there's more tapes. There's more live tapes, right? Somewhere
there are. I mean, I don't know how many more tapes there are. Bob would know. Maybe there's not that many, but there's definitely more material just sitting there, whether Bob wants to release it or not.
Well, sounds like Propeller may want to release it. I don't know.
Or maybe Strolling Bones.
Or the Strolling Bones.
Depending how it works out with the first one.
Yeah.
Well, have you started on Rebel Shoes or No Time yet at all? Or are those just in the pipeline?
They're just in the pipeline, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. For my part of it, I haven't started. I've transferred them, but they're not. I haven't actually started to master them yet. But they already sound great. I'm not too concerned.
I do have this on CD.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've got one of them, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. What is this? Doggone Records?
Right.
Yeah.
That was Jefferson's old label.
Okay. I didn't know. I don't have the other album. I just have this from the live record. So, but you're going to go through and remaster them. So they probably ought to sound, well, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, they were done pretty well the first time too. These are not going to be, I won't be struggling. You know, there's not, I mean, on the live record, there's a little bit of cleanup you got to do sometimes, but you don't want to do too much because it's kind of the thrill of the discovery of the artifact. That's part of the enjoyment of that process. For these tapes, John Keane recorded both of those records. Is that right?
Right.
Bob?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you know, he's no slouch.
Oh,
He's a pretty fantastic engineer and producer. So there's not a lot for me to clean up on these at all. It's just, you know,
yeah, I just noticed
spruce them up a little bit and send them back out.
yeah.
No Time was digitally mixed and mastered.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that the booklet's a
Oh, it
little bit
was?
more than this.
Wow.
Hope there's
Yeah, I
more
think
to the
it was
booklet.
there was some sort of a digital mixing process in there. And then being on CD, it was digitally mastered.
Right.
It has to be.
Of course. But it was recorded on analog though, right? And just digitally mixed. Okay.
I think so. That one does have a bit of a glassier tone to it that I might see if I can. I'm not going to soften it up in the way that, you know, you might use the blur effect in Photoshop, but I'll try to find something that
warm it up a bit.
You know, brings it warm it up a bit without introducing distortion necessarily.
Right.
Well, those were the early days of CDs,
Digital,
so nobody knew what they were doing then.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you
But
know,
much
Brothers in Arms sounds good, you know, and the Nightfly sounds good. You know, that's early digital, but some of it.
That was back when there wasn't a threshold for there was no, you know, reference. There was no reference 0 dB or -14 or whatever you want to use now. So they had, you know, what is it? It's like, this is something I should know. it's like 70 something decibels before you hit a noise floor on a CD.
Yeah.
So who cares? You know, like you don't have to go that high. So I'm sure Brothers in Arms and all those early CDs have all of their transients intact and they're all nice. And all you got to do is turn it up. So
Right.
they kind of did it the right way by accident.
Yeah, they were just following the rules of what was already set into place. You know, now they well, we know what happens now. Everything's brick walled. I hate that.
Well, not everything.
Well,
Coming back.
no, it's coming back. But Todd, you got anything else at the moment?
No, I was just going to say I thought it was interesting when I looked up Squalls's discography. I had it turned around. I didn't realize that the two full-length albums came after or right around exactly the same time as the Athens, Georgia Inside Out release, and so I thought that was really cool, and I'm really looking forward to the reissues.
Cool.
I remember playing Squall's Carts on 90.5 when I was.
Hey, this is Todd Evans on
my shift.
90.5.
My DJ voice isn't that good, but I picked good songs. So.
And then you guys
we found those cards.
What's that?
We found those cards. I think Bob
Oh,
had
did
those
you?
cards.
Oh, okay.
Oh boy, I like it. And then there's going to be a Squalls album release show on the 18th at 9 p.m. and Bob's performing a solo set. That'll be nice. Wild Jordan Tonkcats are playing. And then Bob and Diana Torrell, backed by Wild Jordan Tonkcats, perform a set of Squalls material. I'm just telling you, there's all kinds of Squalls stuff just going on. It's just crazy.
You're gonna have to head up the road for that, I think.
Yeah.
I'm in Ackworth, by the way, so
Okay.
that's what I meant by that.
Yeah, but
Literally.
how far are you away from Athens, Todd?
It's 55 miles, 60 miles, something like that.
No, that's nothing.
You want to talk about getting the artwork together and or whatever other processes there were to get these?
Yeah.
To get the live
Yeah, that'd
record
be
and
great.
the reissues, because it's a similar process to Box, I think, in the way that they went through archives.
Yeah, Bob, why don't you hit on that? What was the whole process?
Yeah, who had all the photographs and all the artwork?
Well, I found in our personal photo collection photos, I believe, that Vanessa took of the band at different periods. And most of those went to Strolling Bones. And then the other band members had some photos. And Propeller Sound sent all of those over to Henry Owings, who does a lot of graphic artists' work. And he scanned a whole bunch of them. And then we have a lot of posters that got scanned that you can look at some of them on squalls.band. There's a page.
I saw some of those.
Yeah. And we put a couple of them on the back of this here.
Yeah.
So, and then I have some photos on the inside.
There's that guitar.
Yep, that's the guitar.
There it is. I love that guitar.
I was going to say, I can't believe you still got it, and it still works.
Yeah,
That's
because
really cool.
Victoria used it for a couple of years, and she took guitar lessons from Vanda Guthrie. But yeah, it still works.
Cool.
Are all the individual members of Squalls still well and active, or are some of them not playing anymore, or is everybody still local?
Well, let's see, the original 5 are all still around. Al, the bass player, was not interested in playing. And Ken has been playing stand-up bass for a long time with my other project, the Jolly Beggars, and he's not really interested in playing guitar. So Mark, the original drummer, is part of Wild Jordan Tonkcats. So
okay. So
there's 3 of us, and then unfortunately, the squalls that appear on the LP, Juan Molina and Paul Hammond have both passed away. But
Juan Molina was in about 1 million bands back then, wasn't he?
yeah, he was in Little Tigers and probably some other things too. And Paul Hammond was.
Oh, good.
Paul Hammond was in Brian Cook's band. The name slips my mind right now, but
was it Izod Gap or?
Yeah.
Okay. There's another name slipping my mind right now that shouldn't be the band that Vic Varney and Dana Downs had after the Tone Tones, like when they were that Juan Molina was in as well.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
I'm sure that you saw them or saw posters or something. Vic doesn't see this. This is something I should know about. Sorry, Vic.
We can look it up and put it down in the underneath.
Yeah.
Put it in the link below.
Look below. It's below.
I do remember Vic playing a lot back in those days. I can't think of the name of the bands.
Yeah, it wasn't the Method Actors. It was after that.
So, Grant, do you have any favorites from the live album, from the Live at the 40 Watt? Because I have one that stands out that I absolutely love, and that's Satellite. I absolutely love that song. Yeah.
I like Prince of Wales.
Yeah, me too.
I think that's great. And
I like Pop Roots and Information too. The whole thing is great, but
Satellite.
Those are the ones that stand out.
I don't know. I like the whole thing, to be quite honest.
What's that one song on there that's like SPQL?
R.
Is that what it's called?
SPQR.
SPQR. So close. Tell us about that song, Bob.
Well, SPQR stands for Senatus Populusque Romano, the senators and people of Rome, which is what they called it until it became an empire. And it's just kind of a play on kind of compares modern times to ancient times and posits that they're not so different. People driving around in their cars on the road to Rome.
Yeah,
it's kind of a silly song, but
oh, you're rolling your eyes, but I think that's cool.
Me too.
Well,
I like Kalinka too. I thought that one was real amusing. It's about it says something about Kalinka's a real person. I don't remember the exact words. You should check her out, or you should take note, or something like that. And it reminded me of how people say sometimes, "Oh, my girlfriend lives in Canada. You don't know her." And I just love that. I don't know if that's the same sentiment, but I just love the words in that song. I thought they were very amusing, very very clever.
All right.
I was wondering if Meg was ever interested in coming down and doing a vocal turn on any of any of these upcoming Squall shows.
Well, Diana's going to sit in with us on the 18th.
Cool. Well, I knew that.
Sing. Oh, you did? Okay. I
knew that. Maybe they did.
I'm not sure if Meg and her husband they bought some property on an island in Newfoundland.
Oh.
And they try to spend the summers up there working on it and fixing it up. But I think they might not. They're probably not up there now because it's getting kind of cold up there. So they're probably back in North Carolina where they live. She'd be welcome to come down.
You guys could learn Catholic girls real quick.
Yeah. And Feet Are Walking is on the extended edition.
That video came out today.
That's right.
Which is Vanessa's birthday.
Yeah.
There's news you can use.
Huh?
I always wondered why, because you've got Bride of Frankenstein on the live, leading off the live album. but it took all this time for it to come out on No Time. Why is that?
Well, it also came out on a single earlier.
Oh, it did.
Yeah,
It was
85. Yeah.
The
Alright.
B-side of Crickets. Crickets was originally one of the carts you were playing, probably.
I was going to say I recognized that one from.
And in fact, we don't have that cart, and we've looked through whatever cassettes we have to find that version. We're not sure what it was, but it was just like a killer version of the song. I mean, the one that's on there is pretty good, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably on an air check of mine because I remembered that pretty vividly when I heard it.
Do you have any recordings of your? Do you have any air checks around?
Yeah, I'm surprised.
I have 6 or 7. Yeah. I used to do. Well, I'm sorry, Jason. What?
Oh, you wanna dig those out and see if they got crickets on them anywhere?
I will. Yeah, I absolutely will. I know where they're at.
Yeah.
And they were made on whatever that tape deck was, right on top of the board. So I don't know. They may not be the right speed, but I'll
fix it.
I'll see what I can do.
Jason will fix it up for you.
Yeah,
I'll
I'll have a look. I've got 7 or 8 of them. I used to do midnight to 3 Wednesday nights right after Who Put the Bump. And I remember I met the gentleman who used to do that show years later, and he said, "I remembered you because you're the only person who used to come in early and go to the back of the library and dig out records." And I was like, "Yeah, you tell me I've got 1 record an hour that I can pick out of the whole library. You bet I'm going to go in there and dig out." But I have very fond memories of those days.
that was a good time.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
Oh, and on Friday, I think, is it Friday or Saturday? They're having a UOG reunion or something.
Yeah, that's Friday.
Yeah, didn't Vanessa mention that before?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, they're playing.
Yeah, it's a private event, so you can't just show up. But I think if you're a UOG alumni, as you are, Todd,
I may be there for that. It's
cool.
This coming Friday, right?
Yes.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
You just have to show them the secret handshake and you're in.
Right.
Well, but Jason, we did get tickets for that show on the 13th.
The Star Bar?
Is that the Star Bar?
The one with Magnapop? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we'll be there.
The Grant's coming down from Ohio, and we'll see you there for that.
From Ohio.
Yeah, flying in just for this.
Wow.
And then, well, Todd and I are going to go to Atlanta, go record shopping, and then go to Athens on Sunday and go record shopping. So it'll just be a record shopping weekend. So
very
looking
nice.
forward to it. But yeah,
might as well put a show in there too.
Atlanta's an amazing.
And we're going to do a show somewhere in there. I don't know how.
We'll figure out something.
Well, Todd, do you have anything else to ask these gentlemen?
No, it's such a pleasure to meet Bob, and of course it's always great to see Jason again. And I am looking forward so much to hearing the reissued albums. And
I am too.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you can go to all the regular Amazon. Of course, you can go to the Squalls website. Strolling Bones, you can order these from Strolling Bones too, the live record.
Right.
Okay.
At Bandcamp too. That's where I got mine.
So everywhere you go that has music should have this online. Okay,
yep.
Good.
All of your better stores and even Amazon if you're that kind of record buyer.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them.
And YouTube
another
music.
Thing about the that's right. Another thing about the Squalls EP remastered and expanded or whatever they've called it is it's got one of the tapes that was in that box of archives was ended up being an 8-track demo that they recorded the year before they put out the first single. So there are 3 songs from that demo session that are on side 2 of the expanded EP, and those had never been heard before. I believe they were forgotten about until we started.
It's probably those extra tapes that he gave you.
Yeah.
Yeah. But those are going to be on the expanded version of this.
Right.
That's right.
All right, cool. Well, I don't really have anything unless Todd's got anything.
Oh, I'm all
You
set.
got all right. You got anything for me, Jason? Anything else?
Let's see.
Well, I have a question for Jason, if he doesn't mind me asking. How is
please.
the Pylon Reenactment Society recording coming along? Is the recording finished?
It's going splendidly.
Good.
We're not finished recording. We have about half of the record completely tracked. We have overdubs to do on some songs and complete songs to track as well. But
Which you're doing next week, right?
that's right. We've got 3 days at Chase Park next week where I will not be the engineer. I will be the artist, or one of the artists, with David Barbie at the helm. So
oh, excellent. Okay.
very much looking forward to that. We did some tracks with Tom Ashton from Subvon Studio, and he, if that name sounds familiar, if you're a post-punk, especially of the UK post-punk variety fan, he is in a band called the March Violets.
Oh, wow. Okay.
A Leeds post-punk band that were sort of in the same school as the Sisters of Mercy.
Yeah.
And he's got a little setup over there, and he's been doing records for bands like Vision Video and Tears for the Dying, and so he's going bananas out there in the woods,
so to speak. Yeah,
so to speak. And so between those two studios, that's how that record is being made, and I'm really happy with it.
That sounds fantastic.
I can't wait to show it to people.
I was just so thrilled with the 45 and the part-time punks thing. I mean, everything so far has just been so good. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Thanks.
More great stuff coming. That's all I can say. All right. Well, Bob, do you have anything else you need to promote? Anything else you want to talk about?
I think we're good.
All right. Well, I'm just going to leave it there. Check this out. Great live record. Sounds great. Jason did a great job. Of course, the Squalls did a great job because they were there when they recorded it.
Right.
And look for the new reissues coming out, and just keep your eye on it. Check out the Squalls website. I don't know. Todd, you got anything coming up you want to plug while we're here?
Really?
Nah, I don't either. Just the same old, same old. There's always content coming out on Grant's Rock Warehouse, so always stay tuned. Subscribe, ring the bell, you know the whole thing. So anyway, I want to thank Bob Hay and Jason NeSmith for coming on tonight. And there's my dog standing there. Look at the Sparks poster. There he goes. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming on. And
well, thanks for doing it.
Well,
Thanks.
you know, I'm doing what I can. So I appreciate it. And you guys have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Grant.
All right,
Thanks,
thanks.
Todd.
See ya.
We'll
Bye.
see you in Atlanta for that show.
Yeah, we'll see ya.
Cool.
All right. Bye.
Bye.